Hi, I'm Phil Ward. I'm head of electroacoustics at Stratton Acoustics, and this is the Elypsis 1512. It's a loudspeaker that's inspired by the 1970s, 1980s very large monitors of American very large monitors like the JBL 4350 and the Tannoy Buckingham and the Uri 813. And the characteristic that those speakers had was a great sense of dynamism and efficiency, and that predominantly came from their really large cone area. We've decided with the Elypsis 15 to take that same idea but combine it with much more contemporary manufacturing and much more contemporary driving design. So we get the best of both worlds in terms of the dynamics of large cones, but the quality and the finesse of much more modern techniques and modern components. So the driving unit complement is two 15-inch bass drivers, a 12-inch mid-range driver, and a 29mm waveguide tweeter that's also mechanically decoupled. And the decoupling technique we're using has a granted patent concerning the particular way that the decoupling is created. The electroacoustic characteristics of the 1512 are unusual in that it is so sensitive, but also has a very benign impedance. So it's very easy to drive, yet it has 96 dB sensitivity.
My name's Dave Fowler, founder of Stratton Acoustics, long-time hi-fi nerd, huge music fan, and someone who's always wanted to get into this marketplace, but never really had the opportunity or reason. My journey started a long time ago, rescuing some unwanted quad 2s and Garrett 401 from my secondary school. That was where the bug bit. Ever since, I've done all kinds of different things, building businesses all over the world, whether they're working in things like scuba diving and military products, all the way through to sustainability, solar charging, zero carbon offset products, sustainable food packaging, all kinds of stuff. But back in 2012, I came back to the UK, worked a lot in the startup space, helping a lot of companies get to market, and had an urge to change pace slightly and to produce a product that, instead of selling in the tens of millions or even billions, would sell in comparatively small numbers but last for decade after decade after decade, and be a true sustainable product in that sense, something that somebody can buy and be incredibly proud of and use throughout their life, pass on to their children, maybe even their children's children. So that's what it's all about. Stratton was founded to do precisely that, and these are the Elypsis 1512s. Unusual take, I think, on high-end acoustics and high-end loudspeaker design. A very different approach, which was entirely, well, myself from an industrial design perspective, and also Phil Ward, you want to call him head of acoustics or head of noise, as he likes to be called, but either which way. Phil's been in the industry for a long time and is the mastermind who came up with all of the electroacoustic engineering, and then I took care of industrial design, supply chain acquisition, and all of the appropriate sort of good old industrial design stuff.
And
so,
well,
and yes, indeed. So I'm going to stop yabbering. I'll hand over to Phil, and he can tell you everything you want to know about the acoustics. Thank you.
When Dave came to me and said, why don't we do something that's inspired by the sort of 1970s big studio monitors, the sort of the JBL 4350, the Tannoy Buckingham, the Uri 813, I think it is. And my first thought was, well, why would you do that? And then he persuaded me, and I realised that those speakers of that time have a particular character. They have a particular sort of dynamism. They had lots of flaws. They were coloured, distorted, boomy bass, but they had a sense of fun about them, a sense of dynamics. And that comes from their massive cone area. And the thing you get from the cone area is that the cone doesn't have to move much. And that means, in a traditional loudspeaker, all of the distortions happen when the cone moves. So if you can use lots of cone area, the cone doesn't have to move very much. And a lot of your distortion problems, eddy current issues in the magnet system, those sorts of things, they just go away.
Because you need to act fast.
Sorry. Hurry up, Phil, people are getting bored. So you take away the cone movement, you take away the distortion, and that's what those 1970s speakers kind of had. But what they didn't have was a contemporary cabinet manufacturer, contemporary driving manufacturer, contemporary crossover manufacturer. So the idea was, what happens when you combine the two? And that's where we are with the 1512. It's a speaker that's inspired by that idea that if you can have lots of cone area, the distortion goes down, but also you apply that to contemporary manufacturing, contemporary driving, and you can get some of the more sophisticated qualities of more up-to-date speakers, more contemporary speakers. So it's an attempt to combine those two ideas, and I think in that respect it's quite unusual. I don't think there's many other people in the high-end passive speaker space doing this. We don't want to be a me too. We don't. There's enough loudspeakers in the world of all sorts. But we certainly didn't want to come up with something that was already around. I wanted to illustrate the point about cone movement and minimising it. We've got two 15-inch bass drivers, and we've got and the result of that is we have sensitivity of 96 dB for a watt, which is kind of 8 dB above a typical hi-fi speaker. And that means typically if we're playing 96 dB at 50 Hertz, the bass driver cone moves less than a millimetre. If we go up to 250 odd watts, 120 dB, you wouldn't want to be in the room, but the bass driver cones are still moving less than 5 millimetres. Their peak linear, the bass drivers, is plus or minus 14. So we're always well within the linear limits for driving it, and that really shows in levels of distortion. The levels of distortion, measured distortion, they're more like an amplifier than a speaker. We've got bandwidth down to 34 Hertz. We've got, as I said, 96 dB sensitivity and a very, very easy 8-ohm load, so it's drivable by any amplifier. Once you've decided on cone area being the primary driver, then you've got to make it all fit in an enclosure, and that's again where we're inspired by the old JBL layout. Some people would argue it's flawed in terms of having the tweeter laterally to the mid-range unit. It does give us opportunities to massage the dispersion so that we can turn what might be a disadvantage into our advantage in terms of the way the speaker integrates with the room. Again, the very large front baffle gives us some dispersion control, which you don't get with very slim speakers. Then Dave's designed the most extraordinarily rigid enclosure. This is, what are the panel thicknesses, Dave? Remind me.
Right, so instead of going down the sort of traditional route of using MDF, these are entirely made out of Latvian birch plywood, furniture grade, very fine furniture grade. The predominant construction is 24 millimetres thick, but even our internal bracing is 18 millimetres thick, so they're tremendously rigid. To give you an idea, we actually have a box within a box. The mid-range enclosure inside here is completely separate. There are no parallel sides on it anywhere. And then the entire structure is comprehensively braced in every plane of motion to make sure the panels don't move. Front baffles are 42 millimetres thick before you put on a solid acrylic fascia panel, which is 10 millimetres thick. So it's substantial.
Oh, the tweeter, there's a 29mm waveguide tweeter here. It is decoupled, so there's a silicon moulded bead along there that provides tweeter decoupling, which gives us a low resonant frequency. The tweeter's decoupled at 60-70 Hertz, so that it's not impacted at all by vibration of the cabinet. And there's elements of that have resulted in a patent grant.
Yeah. Interestingly, the enclosure behind here has its own dedicated enclosure, separating it pneumatically from the rest of the enclosure. And you come up and push it, you can actually see the motion of that decoupling it from the rest of the housing. It's quite an interesting patent application. We've done a lot in my industrial design professional practice. We work with the best intellectual property attorneys probably in the world, And they came back to me after we filed this and said they've had an unprecedented, completely unargued application response from the IPO. So we went from, usually it takes at least a couple of years to get a patent granted. We got this one patent in less than 9 months, just because the IPO had never seen anything like it. There was no existing prior art anywhere. So we're very lucky.
We've got just a little bit of optional room EQ. So that's mid-range plus or minus 2 dB, that's tweeter plus or minus 2 dB, to give people a little opportunity to customise for the room, preferences, that kind of thing.
And how much are they?
Dave?
They start at 69,000, but we have ranges of finishes which are quite literally limitless.